Hey OV family, keep it tight. My name is Jim Morse, review guy, you know who it is, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the brand new Motionless and White album entitled Disguise. So this is the 5th studio-length album by Pennsylvania natives Motionless and White, formed in 2005 and always kind of frontmanned by Chris Motionless. His over-the-top, wonky, and wacky personality and kind of interesting approach to doing vocals for the metalcore genre as a whole has always kind of made him very intriguing to listen to on all Motionless and White projects. Their first two albums don't really do much for me, neither of them have really stuck with me, neither of them have been albums that I've really returned to that much, but their album Reincarnate I still hold in pretty high regard. I do enjoy the self-titled track quite a bit, but it was really their 2017 album Graveyard Shift that I really felt like it clicked. I think this is an over-the-top, very fun release with gothic metal and industrial metal flair thrown in there. They've always kind of had that, but it really did feel like when they got signed to Roadrunner Records, they were put to task to make a record that was just as good as they could possibly make, with as much influences as they could possibly make, a la Sempiternal by Bring Me the Horizon. I especially love how all over the place that album was in terms of styles. I liked how you got those weird gothic metal, just over the top, funny, ghoulish type of unholy, undead themed songs, kind of like Dead as Fuck Part 2, and you got those kind of banger metalcore soaring choruses and soaring verses on tracks like Eternally Yours and Soft and Untouchable, the introspection on the track Voices, as well as the opener Rats, which is one of the just kinkiest metalcore songs ever made. Motionless and White has never been a band to reinvent the wheel or do anything that's going to be so off the beaten path that it's going to be unrecognizable to people that listen to the genre, but I did really look forward to this release, this being Disguise, because I was curious to see how they were going to follow up a record that I personally really enjoy, that being Graveyard Shift. Was this going to be a better record? Were they going to up the stakes? Where were they going to go from here? Undead Ahead 2, as well as Broadcast and Beyond the Grave, are the sole two tracks on the album that have that Graveyard Shift feel, where you have that undead type of feel, especially on Undead Ahead 2, which has just these chiming bells that open up the track in this just demented Victorian type of gothic melody. The rest of this track listing feels a lot like the track Eternally Yours off of their album Graveyard Shift, especially with how you get soaring choruses, tenfold riffs that are just the size of skyscrapers, and stadium-sized arena rock drum playing. I'm thinking of tracks such as Code, Legacy, Holding On to Smoke, Another Life also feature Chris going in a little bit different of a direction, where he embraces a sort of little bit higher register, not as nasally, not as gravelly, which is what he usually opts for in his music. Can I just point out that Holding On to Smoke sounds so much like Benjamin Burnley on the vocals, on the verses I should say, where he just sounds so much like Benjamin, especially when he doesn't have that rasp and that nasally tone that Chris usually has. The tracks I'm talking about so far are pretty much run-of-the-mill by Motionless and White standard, by metalcore standards. They're not blowing me away, but they're by no means bad. And there's the occasional riff, the occasional line that does make me cringe a little bit for being a little bit too over the top and a little bit too tropish and cliche for the genre, especially for the alternative metal genre. But with the added instrumentation that they're doing, with the just industrial sounds, with the gothic sounds, mixed with their normal metalcore sound, and the lyrics that really do feel heartfelt, especially on tracks like Another Life, where they're delivered with so much emotion and heart and passion, it's hard not to get behind these tracks as just a really nice metalcore album. Most of the time, the reasons that I do get behind a lot of these tracks are just little things that make them catchy or make them stand out, like on the track Headache, where you get that refrain leading into the chorus, which is shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, or little vocal snippets that I think kind of sound very emotional and invoke a lot of that emotion, such as on the track Code, on the chorus, where you get the vocal inflection where it goes, "We don't have to feel alone," and it just descends and just sounds really pretty and very emotional alongside the instrumentation, which backs it so beautifully but so heavily. But with that being said, I'm praising this album a lot, but it's not just perfect, it's not just puppies and kittens. I'm not a big fan of the final two tracks, Brand New Numb and Catharsis. I think they both give way to some very alternative metal tropes, and they just don't feel as powerful, and they don't hit as close to home for me as some of the other tracks on this record. With those opening making sense on the track Code. I'm kind of jumping back to Code. It sounds like something that could be on Graveyard Shift, especially on a track like Loud. It has almost this nu metal feel to it. The whole track does. Thoughts and Prayers is the hardest song on the album, the heaviest song on the album, the most brutal, dude. It's so brutal. But it's not that much of a standout to me. I feel like the lyrics are a little trite. I feel like they have done songs like this before. It reminds me quite a bit of a track like Soft off Graveyard Shift, that type of lyrical theme. They've done it before. It's nothing new for the band, and I think that they're just balls to the wall heaviness is fine, but it wears a little bit thin and doesn't keep standing out with repeated listens. It just feels like they're trying to be heavy for heavy's sake. On the track Another Life, I do love the banging drums on the chorus when it's just pausing and starting again, and Chris's delivery is just so powerful. I mean, I don't know if I like this record better than Graveyard Shift. It's hard for me to really say that yet. I think I still like Graveyard Shift a little bit more, but there's a lot of strong tracks on this album, and for a metalcore album, there's a lot of great things about it. There's a couple tracks that I'm just not that big of a fan of, but I think for the most part, this is a very strong record with a lot of good things going for it. I do like that Chris is going into more of a direction with his vocals, but still maintaining that original Motionless and White feel to it. I like that he's able to experiment and do different vocal techniques, but it doesn't really throw off the balance of the album. I like that they're bringing in more alternative metal feels and more just industrial metal feels, and not just trying to just be this over-the-top ghoulish band. Even though Graveyard Shift was so good, I wouldn't like them to do the same thing over and over and over. I think this album's pretty good. If you like a metalcore album, or if you want a metalcore album with some flair to it, some difference to it, something that's a little bit different than your average metalcore release, definitely check this out. But my guess is if you clicked on this review, you already know that Motionless and White is different than your average metalcore band from just pretty much every standpoint. I'm going to be giving this album a 7.5 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Please stay for the end screen. I'll link some videos that you might be interested in. Have you heard this Motionless and White album? If you have, you can let me know in the comment section below what you thought of it. Like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, it'll help me out a lot, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. I'll talk to you guys next time, but until then, my name is Jay Morse, Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.